This is my December book haul. Now I kind of cheated because actually some of these books I've already read and I just decided to go ahead and put them on the December book haul list because I'm not sure when I'm going to actually buy. Usually I do like to buy some holiday related books, but I'm not quite in the Christmas mood yet. So further on in the month I may buy a specific holiday, Christmas, winter list, or maybe I'll do that as a book tag or something. I don't know. Some of these I've actually already read in November, more related to NaNoWriMo or just to writing, and one of them I actually had already. So let me go over them really quick. James Scott Bell is one of my favorite authors on how to write books, and I have a lot of his books and I should go over them individually. But one I read just recently, because it's NaNoWriMo, still November for me, was How to Write Pulp Fiction. It's just a fun book. It's a reaffirmation that pulp fiction is okay. You don't have to be intimidated by literary snobs who say that there's something wrong with it or subordinate about it. It's a perfectly good way to write, and it's definitely a good thing to write if you want to actually make a living at writing, which frankly not a lot of literary writers do. Now, you all know I'm an anti-literary writing snob, or if you don't, now I'm confessing it once again, but that's on my list, and I'll do my book review because I've already read it. The next book on my list is The Gender Secret. This is the sequel to The Gender Game, which was the first book in this series, the Gender Game series by Bella Forrest. I really loved the first book, and I'll be doing a review of that one as well. So I decided, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and get the second book, and I'll probably be reading more of the books in this series because it's a pretty good series. Another sequel is on my list, The Black Shriving. Look at that picture. I love the art on these series. On these books. They're awesome. It's just, it's gorgeous. It's simple. It's just a person. It's a person from the book, but I love the artwork. It's so gorgeous. Anyway, The Black Shriving. Isn't that a great name? I'm looking forward to reading that one. The first book was awesome. So that's another sequel. Then I've got Shifters University by K.R. Thompson. Don't know this author. Don't know this series. It sounded fun, so I decided to get it. The next one is one that I bought solely because of the name. Very seldom do I buy a book because of the title. Sometimes I buy a book because of the cover. In fact, quite a few times I buy books because of the cover. I'm just showl that way. But this one was one that I just loved the name and I couldn't resist, even though I'm not really sure it's the kind of genre I usually go for. I'm not a huge fan of the sub-fantasy genre about thieves and assassins, but this one sounded so funny. The Thief Who Pulled on Trouble's Braids. That's awesome. That's just really cool. So this is a book in a series. The author is Michael McClung? McClung? Okay. The next one is called Privileged, which is just a funny title, and it's young adult. It's not actually, I think it's just young adult romance. It's not actually science fiction or fantasy, which is a little strange for me, but I think it has a prince in it, which is kind of like fantasy, really. So even if it's set in the real world. And it's just, it's like a young adult prep school novel, so we'll see how that goes. Then this next one is a short story, actually, by Stephanie Burgess, Undead Philosophy 101. Another one I just bought because I like the title, because it's a funny title. Okay, and Pivot Point is a book that I already owned. It actually came out a while ago, and then Split Second is the sequel to Pivot Point, and I actually had that on my Kindle for a long time because I read Pivot Point when it came out, but the sequel hadn't been out yet. Then I forgot about it. When the next book came out, I think I found out because I was on the author's list or on Amazon's list or something. So I went ahead and bought the second book, but at that time I just wasn't into reading it, and it had been a while since I read the first book. So when I decided to review it because I wanted to do some videos about it, I went back, reread Pivot Point, enjoyed it just as much the second time as I had the first time, and then read Split Second, which I already owned but had never read before. So that was funny. I already had the sequel. I went to go buy the sequel, and then Amazon has this helpful thing where they actually tell you that you already have the book, which is great because in the old days before Kindle, I used to go to the bookstore and re-buy books, and I didn't realize until after I put it on the shelf in alphabetical order that I already had it. In like a moron, I hadn't checked. So I'm really glad that Amazon lets me know, because I do buy a lot of books on impulse. I'm guilty. And then I forget that I have them, and then I see the same book again and think, oh, that looks like a book I would like. Yeah, you thought that a year ago too. So anyway, now I finally read it. I finally read the sequel, and I still love that duology. It's really cool. And then Parallel was recommended to me because I read Pivot Point. It's a similar kind of story, and I've already done a review of that book as well. So some of these books I've already read, but that's also because I'm behind behind on some of the books from my November haul, and I think even my October book haul that I haven't finished yet, so I'm still working my way through those other lists of books to read, and I just kind of, it's a combination of what I have on my list and what I've kind of committed to read, and what I feel like reading at the time. And obviously, sometimes when I buy the book, I think it sounds good, but then when I actually get around to read, I decide I want to read something else, and I just go with it because it should be fun, right? Reading should be fun. So I try to make it a little bit of an obligation just to give myself that challenge and to have what's next list so that I have a go-to list to go to. But then if I really feel like reading something else, I go with it. Again, I expect that closer to Christmas, I'll feel like reading some Christmas books, but that might not be until actually my kids are on vacation and we have a tree up and stuff like that. Right now, everything is still just a mess after Thanksgiving, so I'm not yet ready for my Christmas reading. I will get to that later in the month, and in the meantime, I'll work through the books on this list and some of the books that are still left on my other lists. So I have a lot to read, and I'm pretty happy about that. Tara out.